Hello, spring. Goodbye, quarter one. I am so excited. I don't know about you, but April and May are my favorite months of the year. I look forward to April, the moment that the new year comes. So in January, I'm like, I just can't wait to get to April. I know these next few months are hibernation months and we are just going to get through it. And especially when you are going through a breakup, it kind of sucks even more. So you really have to just like be patient with yourself and really, I don't know, just keep your head down and hope for sunny days. And luckily, I live in Colorado where the sun does shine. Thank God it's shining right now. It has not been shining for the last couple of days, which has been very depleting of like energy. Anyways, if you are a new listener, hi, my name is Mads. I'm your host for the next 30-ish minutes. And if you don't know what this podcast is all about, let me give you a little breakdown. I have 5 episodes. This will be the 5th episode of It's Not That Deep. And the quick synopsis is I started this podcast in February to help heal my heart. I went through a snarly fucking breakup in 2023, but it was not that easy. So I dated my landlord to the salon suite that I own. I rent from a building and I dated that owner of the building. Long story short, I fell in love with him, like madly in love with this man, to the point where it was really, really, really hard to leave him. He asked me for an open relationship 3 years in. I, full disclosure, am monogamous through and through, and I can confidently say that because I did try. So I tried to do open from 2023 to 2024, and finally in October of 2024, I had to go no contact. So I finally went no contact with my ex, who is also still my landlord to this current date, and I'm 6 months sober from him. I say sober, I say clean, because he was like a drug to me. Still is. Like there's still a lot that I'll get into in this podcast, but when you date somebody who has this this type of charisma, this type of how do I say, he played with my heart and my mind, and it really, really fucked me. I'm a pretty independent woman. However, I fell so dependent on this man that I'm happy that I went through what I went through. I mean, not thrilled about it, don't love the outcome, don't love what I had to go through, but like I needed to go through it in my journey, and that's why I started this podcast. It's not that deep, because once I got to the depths of my relationship and really dissected it and understood to the point where I am like, I'm good on understanding it, it got a lot easier. Not a hell of a lot easier, but like I got some clarity, and I started changing some small habits, and then some bigger habits, and now the snowball effect. And 6 months later, I'm finally seeing like the changes that I've been working at the last 6 months quietly behind closed doors. Now, if you're somebody who sits in my chair and or one of my friends or a family member, like you probably have heard a lot of these changes, a lot of what I've wanted to change, and you've probably heard like the same old. And I'm sorry if it gets repetitive, but I've got to try new things, and I've got to keep trying these to make changes happen, because essentially I still am living a day-to-day life that I was living but with him. So now I'm just living the same life but without him. And like what I mean by that is like I still work at the building that he owns, which is Tuesday through Friday. I go to the building that I used to love. Like I've always felt like it was like my building. Like that's how I always felt like it was, like I was a big part of the reason why this building existed, even though it's not true. It was his. Everything was his. I fell in love with the building in 2019 when I found it. And then when I signed my lease for my salon, I felt like I was a part of a family, and I felt like I was a part of something bigger, and I just felt more, and I loved it. And I ran the rooftop venue to it, and like there was so much to it that I loved, and it was my identity. And I think that was something I had to really come to terms with over the past 6 months. Like, it's not mine. I had to release it. I finally let go of the rooftop gig. And that was probably the hardest thing to do too, because not only am I breaking up with my ex, but like I'm also breaking up with things that like I was passionate about. I loved running the rooftop venue, and it sucks that it's not that he took everything from me, but it is a little bit of the truth. Like everything that once I lived for and worked so hard for is now not mine anymore, except for my salon. Still exists. It's me. If you are in Denver and you're listening to this, I am a lived-in color specialist and hair extension specialist, and I do some women's cuts. So let me know if you need or want a new hairstylist. I could be your gal. Anyways, to go back to the podcast, I started it in February because I felt this need when he first asked me for an open relationship. I immediately wanted to start this podcast 2 years ago, and he was still in my life though. So I felt like a fraud going on and being like, it's not that deep, although I was in the depths of my freaking relationship. Like I every day was a guessing game on what this man would request of me, ask of me, or like say to me. I would be like, I don't even know what to say to that. But I knew I needed to keep my head down, and that's kind of like, it's what I did during 2020. I just was like gathering information and seeing like how I could be a part of this relationship, but how I couldn't. So anyways, long intro of It's Not That Deep. I'm Madison, and I went through the toughest, I hope, breakup I will ever experience. And if you're someone who's listening and is like, oh shit, I'm kind of going through something that feels so deep, and I know that at the end of it, it's going to not be that deep, like, take a listen. I give advice on this podcast. I talk about life, real life experiences, relationship advice. I own a business, so I'll probably talk business. And I'm excited that you're listening. I really am. Like, I feel like for the first 4 episodes, I've been nervous for people to listen. But now I'm like really excited that you're listening to my podcast, because that means that you are giving me 30 minutes of your life that you will never get back. And even if you're like doing the dishes right now, or if you're going on a walk, or honestly, if you're driving in your car and you're like, I just want to hear Matt's voice. Hi. And I'm happy you are listening. So let's get into today's recap. So not every episode, that is a lie. I literally started this last episode, but from here on out, every episode I'm going to do a weekly recap of my life, because a lot of shit happens in 1 week's time. And I was planning on doing this weekly, dropping episodes, but I've kind of fell off the wagon a little bit. So nonetheless, weekly recap of the last, let's say, couple weeks. Last week I went on a date, and it did not go well. I will get into my date more of like in the depths, but I got approached at a coffee shop by twice in the same day, and one of the men solidified a dinner date, and so I went to go on a dinner date with this man, and we ended up not getting dinner, and we ended up walking for like an hour and a half, and I had 2-inch heels on. So this date didn't go well, and that's going to be the gist of that. Stay tuned. Keep listening. I found out yesterday, not found out, but I have to get glasses full time. So fun facts about me. I had my eyes, I had cross-eyed. So I was cross-eyed growing up. I don't know why that was really hard for me to say, but I was cross-eyed growing up. Like, I can't help that. And I hated wearing glasses, like through pre-K, kindergarten, honestly, all the way to 2nd grade. Like, I hated wearing my glasses. It would be a joke in the household. Honestly, it would piss off my siblings about like, we had to find Madison's glasses. Like, we need to find Madison's glasses, because I would hide them. Like, I hated wearing the glasses, and I had these like blue round ones, and now I can appreciate them now that I'm older. But I used to just feel silly, and I just felt like a little loser in them. And now, fast forward, I'm 28, and I went to the eye doc yesterday, and he goes, yeah, your left eye is getting worse, and if you don't wear glasses, like, it's going to continue to get worse even on the right eye. So I have 20/20 on my right and 20/40 on my left. That's not good. So I have to get glasses. I honestly am going to go on Zenni Optical, but if you guys have other recommendations for glasses on purchasing, I am going to start off not investing a shit ton, because honestly, I am afraid I'm going to break them, lose them, and not wear. I need to wear them though. So
Maybe if I buy more expensive ones, I will wear them more. But anyways, that I found out yesterday. Went on a date, found out about my glasses, and what else? Oh, I finally listened to I haven't finished it yet, but the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. And I, for some reason, have been super anxious. Not even that's not right. I've been super like imposter syndrome on my podcast and inviting people on. And I was shopping at Home Goods and I was listening to the Let Them Theory, and she was just like, why are you waiting? What are you waiting for? Like, who are you, why do you care what they think? And I just like, why am I like waiting? And they're like, she was talking about, God, I can't even remember now because it was like Sunday. What'd she say? She said that she was in the depths, like she needed money, all this stuff. And she was a motivational speaker, and she wasn't letting it be known that she's a motivational speaker. And that like kind of hit me because I'm like, why am I not letting it be known that I have a podcast a little bit louder and a little bit prouder? So here I am. I went on Instagram on Sunday, and at Home Goods, I found these cute little cushions, which I'm going to put my video up so you can see, but they're these two little green squishy cushions. They're so cute. Found two, and I was like, I think it's time to invite guests on my podcast. So I am now expanding my podcast into guest formation and sharing the whole synopsis of the podcast is to go into the depths of our life to then realize it's not that deep. So I'm going to invite guests on. I put a poll out. I have a fuck ton of people wanting on, which is amazing. I was overwhelmed and happy and now have like a full-time job of scheduling this and making this happen. But I am super excited to just hear other people's stories, because as awesomely crazy as mine is, I do think that mine is very, my story in life it's relatable, but not a lot of people have experienced a love like this. And I hope you never have to. I truly hope you never have to experience a love like this. But I do have some clients who have, and I have clients that want to come on the podcast. I have friends that want to come on the podcast. I have random people that I just met who just followed me that want to go on the podcast. I have some people that were in my yoga TT class that went on. Like, I have so many people that went on, and I'm excited to have them on. So the next few weeks to come, honestly, between April and May, I plan on having guests on my podcast. So it's going to change up a little bit. You're going to hear different voices, but you will always consistently hear this voice every single week. Well, I'm not promising that, but the goal is every single week. This kind of leads me into like my next little like topic. I want to go into the depths. So excited for the guests to come on and share stories that they want to share and talk about what they've learned and yada yada. But let's go back to today, and going back to me, I want to talk about why March I couldn't and didn't release as many podcasts as I wanted to. And I have to be honest, I really dread March. Like, it's probably something that nobody knows, but it is the toughest month for me. And it's been this way for a very long time. And I have a lot of different reasons why it is, but to keep it kind of on the topic of recent events, and I don't really necessarily want to go into family on this podcast. So it's definitely just more going to be about my relationship. But March of 2023 was the month that I had to move out of my ex and I's home. And it's like, it was the beginning of the end of us. And I had my first panic attack, and I just couldn't. March sucked. Like, March, I wanted it to be so good, and it's just like March sucked. I had a relationship in the past where I went on spring break, and March is when that happens, and it sucked. We literally got evicted from the fucking place that we were at because of him. And I mean, my sister and I were like, what do we do? Do we just drive back home? And it was day one of the trip. Like, when I say March, it's just not my month. It's just not my month. So this year, I really went in with the intention of what can I in my control change? And so I challenged myself to keep myself busy, and I tried a like hormone balanced diet, which I hate the word diet because I'm not trying to diet, but it's essentially the Mediterranean diet. I was recommended this book by my therapist called Hormone Intelligence, and in the back it has a bunch of like meals to have, and the biggest one was to cut out caffeination. So I tried to cut out caffeine Monday through Friday, and then I will say the first 2 weeks were solid, and then the third week I kind of fell off. And then I was like on and off on the fourth week. It is definitely challenging, and it's definitely challenging when I approach like my time of the month. So this is definitely a podcast where I'm so open and so vulnerable, but I got diagnosed with PMDD last year with my therapist. It is self-diagnosable. So PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and it's where you have really, really intense mood swings the week before the period and the week of the period. And then you also, like, I had really heavy bleeding. I would bleed through very, very quickly on day 1 and day 2, and my moods would be out of control. Throw this life-altering change of this breakup in there, and I couldn't handle my emotions. So I started acupuncture. I went a little bit more of a woo-woo route rather than like traditional medication right away. And so, yeah, I tried acupuncture, and I can confidently tell you I have a very quick period, and my mood swings are still happening, but they're not as intense, and I don't bleed through anymore. So I will say, like, if you're interested in something to help your period, I do recommend acupuncture. That has helped me immensely. Anyways, I wanted to talk about the death of March. So like March is always a month where I feel very like dead inside, and like it's a lot of like things that I've loved died. A lot of people physically and not physically, like mentally, are no longer in my life, and it's just a hard month for me. So when it comes to March, fast forward, or not even fast forward, but last night I decided to go back my memory log on my phone and go to March 31st, 2023, and it's really hard to watch. Like, it's just really, she was hopeful back then. Like, Mads was very excited to move out, but she was so confused, and you could see, like, I could see her like be like, it's not what she wanted. I talk like it's a different person. It's me, past me. I didn't want our relationship to be done. I didn't believe it was done. I was in denial for a very long time, and I'm packing up my car by myself. I'm doing it all by myself. And again, like, this is something that I believe in, but the way that you enter a relationship is the way you are going to exit it. And so I entered my relationship with my ex secretively and by myself. I didn't talk to anyone about it, and I kept it a secret as good as I could from people that I loved. And so, yeah, I left it the same way, very alone. I had to figure it all out on myself. And the one person that I leaned on the most when entering the relationship was the person I couldn't even talk to when exiting. He couldn't even give me the light of day. He never even messaged me like, good luck on moving out today. Let me know if there's anything I can help you with. Like, it was so, he couldn't have kicked me to the curb faster. And fast forward, I watched last year's March 31st video, and God, it was really sad. I was just me being stuck. I was back in it. For some reason, I went back into it, and it sucked. Like, I remember I didn't want to be right back into it, but it was right after he flew me out to Vancouver, and we had a really good vacation on a really high. And then it just all blew up again. And so there's a pattern with him and my ex, and I recognized it, and I'm very proud of me for recognizing it. But this man explodes in 2 different times of the year, in March and in October. And so finally in October of 2024, I said, fuck you and fuck this, and I'm going to choose myself. And it is so amazing to just be on this other side. And now that we're in April, I'm excited because April and May are my favorite months of the year. So I just wanted to like talk about, I know that we're pretty into this, but like I just wanted to talk about the reality of breaking up and also dating. So like I said, I'm 6 months no contact with my ex, and it's weird. I want to say that every day is easy. It's not. I want to say that it gets easier with time, and it does, but it also doesn't. So what I mean by that is so for example, like I had those two, it just goes in waves. So like I have been like not actively like I don't want long-term dating, but I have been like dating. And there was this guy earlier in the year that I was seeing, and I'm just really proud because I went with my intuition. And for some reason, like I was reading my journal entries and I was like, this just isn't it. If I was excited about a guy, I wouldn't be writing the way that I'm writing, which was very hesitant and very like, I don't know, something's off, and like it just doesn't feel as like it should, but like maybe that's how new dating is, like maybe like that's how healthy dating is, like all those things. And ultimately ended it with him and felt lighter when I did that. And so I was like, okay, that's a good sign. And I just wasn't ready. Like I wasn't ready to date. And full disclosure, told this man that from the beginning. Straight up said, I'm 3 months out of the relationship. Like I'm not at a place where I can invite a new committed relationship in. Essentially he told me right away he didn't want to be friend zoned. So I didn't know exactly where we landed because I didn't want like a fuck buddy. I just was like, I don't know what I want. And I realized I do want a friend. Like I didn't want anything committed that soon in my life. And so nonetheless, dating is weird because then you go from like your mind being not on your ex and it's like on somebody and something different to then it ending again. And it's just like, I'm not sad about that ending, but like you kind of go back to like, damn, like back to the thoughts of like your ex and like what you guys had and like that it was easy. And then it was like, you know, was he right? And like, was he, I question myself on if I made the right decision some days. And I know, just so you all know, I know I did. I know I made the right decision. But we have a thing every month called a period. And every fucking month, at the end of it, I start to question everything. And so what I'm realizing with dating is that I have to be so aware of where I'm at in my cycle. I have to be like, my best time to date is the beginning of the months, not the ends. And I didn't realize that until this last date, because this last date, so he asked me these, I mean, this is the other thing. So you go back to a low, and that was like in February. And then I had these two guys come up to me, and I'm not on dating apps, by the way. This is all just like happening in my life. So these two guys came up to me at a coffee shop, and within like, no joke, 15 minutes of each other. And I was very much flattered girly, but also nervous as shit and realized I don't like attention like that. And was the first guy, honestly, kind of holding out hope for. The second guy, ew. It was not it. But at first I was like, they were two completely opposites. So one was very like direct and to the point. So the guy that I ended up going on a date with, he asked me to dinner. He reserved the dinner reservations, confirmed dinner reservations, and I show up to said dinner on last Wednesday, and it was close to my house, so I walked. Again, reminder, I'm a hairstylist, so I stayed on my feet all day. So I was excited for dinner, because I'm a hairstylist and I most likely didn't eat. I usually have a salad, but I think I did eat that day actually, but nonetheless, it's dinner time. Doesn't matter. I'm ready to eat again. So walked to this place in Denver called Sunday Vinyl, and I was super excited to eat there. I've always wanted to eat there. Never had the opportunity. Usually they're either closed or there's like a booking, like a private booking. So I've never been able to go. Was super excited to go. Looked at the menu beforehand because, ladies, listen up. If I asked somebody to dinner, I would expect myself to pay. I invited you out. Now, I got approached at a coffee shop, got asked for dinner by him, so I did expect for him to pay. That is my standard. You asked me out to dinner, yes, I expect you to pay. However, your girl's not going to get caught in a weird situation, so I wanted to make sure this is a place that I could afford as well. And so I was like, oh, yeah, I can buy my own dinner. That'd be totally fine. So if he wasn't vibing with me and was like, I just don't want to really pay, totally chill. Like, I can respect that. I got my own tab. So I was really looking forward to dinner, if you have not understood that. And we sit down. So I show up. He wasn't there, so I showed up. I do want a man that is on time, and on time to me is about 10 minutes early because I am going to show up on time. So I was there at literally 7. I'm just a prompt girly, and I want someone else to I respect time all the way through and through. So he did show up a little after me, and not the end of the world. That's just something that I'm putting on my things to be aware of in the future. And we sit down, and immediately he starts talking about, do I like fancy dinners? Do I go out to eat like this? He went to college with a bunch of chefs, and they just like spoiled he had a bunch of it was almost like Michelin star Taco Bell is what he said. And I was like, oh yeah, cool. Like, yeah, I like to eat. And I mean, like, that was my previous ex and I. Like, we always went out to eat. We always went to fancy dinners. We'd always go to like Shanahan's, and we'd go to everywhere. Elway's. We go to anywhere, you name it, we would go, because that's the only thing my ex had going for him is money. So that's that. So it wasn't very impressive to me. I didn't really care, but I was sitting and entertaining his conversation pretty much to himself about his life. And then he was just talking about just other things, and looked up at me, and he's like, so are you going to order, like, are you going to order a dinner? And I looked at him and I was like, well, yeah. And I just thought it was like weird. I thought he was going to be like, oh, what are you going to get for dinner? Because that's a normal question. Because I ask that all the time. Like, oh, what are you going to get for dinner? But he said, like, are you going to get a dinner? The answer, yes. We're on a dinner date. Fuck yeah, I'm going to get a dinner. So the waiter came over, and then we both ordered waters. He doesn't drink, so I matched that. And so he ordered a mocktail, which was totally fine. And then the waiter came back, and then the guy, my date was like, we're not ready quite yet. So the waiter went away, and they looked at him and was like, hey, like, we should probably have like our order ready. So when he comes back, being mindful of the waiter's time, because like, it's kind of weird. We're not putting anything in at the moment. Also, I'm fucking hungry. It's 7. I'm hungry. So I said that to him, and then he's like, well, you can be ready. He's like, tell him a joke or something. I don't have to give him an order. And I was like, well, like, that's okay. I was like, I don't know what to say to that. I literally was like, I could have a joke ready. I'm like, the joke is this date at this point. So waiter comes back. We still weren't ready. Turned him down again. And then he looks at me. He's like, so do you like walking? And I was like, yeah, like I like walking. And he's like, did you walk here? And I was like, I did. He's like, did you wear walking shoes? I was like, well, yeah, I wore walking shoes. And like, I wore shoes that I could walk in. And he's like, how about we skip out on dinner and just go for a walk? We went on a walk. I was in 2-inch heels. We went on a walk for, I think it was like honestly a 2-mile walk. My feet were blistered. They hurt so bad. And I'm not being dramatic. Like, they were bubbling. Like, my feet bubbled. I couldn't even wear closed-toed shoes on Friday. Saturday I forced it because I was going out with some girls. But like, my feet hurt. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because I realized, like, this dating is just, it's not like he was a bad guy. Like, that's just not what I want. Like, he was very, he was flashing of his money, and he wanted somebody to be somebody that cared about that. And he kept saying like hot wives, like hot wives. And he's like, I had a hot date, and like just talked about that stuff. And I was like, I personally just left that shit. I don't care for that. So it's not a bad thing. We just aren't aligning with our morals and our values. He also mentioned how he wants kids. And I was like, okay, so I don't want kids. Like, that's a hard no then. I'm not ever going to date somebody that is like, I want to have kids. If they're like, I don't need to have kids, but if kids come up later, great. Like, that's somebody I would still continue to date with. Like, that's just common sense. And that's also what dating is. You're trying to find somebody that matches what you want in life. So it's annoying because we finally end the date. I come home. He asks me on a second date. And I'm like, this is what's wrong. You're just like asking people on second dates to see who would be willing to go on another date and who will just end up sticking around, rather than actually figuring out if you aligned or if your goals matched. Like, our goals did not match at all. And so it's just interesting to me to like see that. So I go on this high of having 2 guys come up to me. That date failed. And then the day before that date, this guy, and mad respect for him, but Was really excited about this guy. I do have a weird crush on him, even though like we met just for a brief moment at the coffee shop. But he's intrigued me. He's like very mysterious. I don't know much about him. We couldn't lock in a date because he was going on as like a 6-week road trip, and he just mentioned how he's like, I think it'd be not smart of me or to you for his time and my time to like start dating and then just boogie out and go on this road trip. And I completely agree, and I can respect that because my thing is that I need to be prioritized in a relationship. And so that was very nice to just be kind of told like, you're not the priority, like I've got other shit. And I was like, rock on, go make memories, go fucking have fun. And he, you know, asked if I could circle back in summer, and I was like, sure, circle back, like if we're both single and it matches up, great. Like the stars, the universe at this point like is on a path with me, and I don't know what path that is, but I'm on it, I'm walking it, and I'm figuring it out as I go. So it goes from like, you know, I had somebody in my mind, and then, you know, in January, February, and then just kind of back in the slumps of like thinking of my ex, and then like back up again being like, oh wait, maybe I'm just like, maybe I need to put good energy out there and better energy. And then those two guys came up, and then, you know, back in the slumps again of like, okay, now my phone's silent again. And like, I don't necessarily need a guy. And that's like what I realized when I left the date. I was like, I don't want to date. I'm not going on dinner dates for the first day ever. That's now a rule. But like, B, I want to love something more than myself right now, and I don't know at the time, like, not even I don't know. I do know. I do know what it is I'm going to love. And God, do I want to say it on here yet? No, I'm not. So anyways, like I have love that I need to give. And so I'm giving that love to not just myself, but like friends and family. And I'm trying to just like to be more present in my current life. But like, I'm not gonna lie, like anytime this happens is like when there's nobody coming through on my phone on the other side. Anybody that goes through a breakup, it's nice to have distractions, and it's nice to have like reminders that, you know, you can be seen and loved and respected by someone other than your ex. But like when it doesn't go that way, you just kind of go back in your mindset of like, okay, well maybe again he was right, maybe it is harder to date, maybe I am like much like monogamy might not be it for me. But those are not truths, those are just me being fearful and going back to settling. Because if I settled for this man, I would be so unhappy. And it's just really hard because I realized over the course of March, I just miss my best friend. And if you are somebody who, I mean, has a best friend and has lost a best friend, like it's probably one of the toughest things is like grieving somebody. Like I lost all of my world, which is unhealthy to have one person be your whole entire world, and I understand that. So I'm really working at not having that be it. But like when my ex and I broke up, he was my whole world. He was my best friend. He was damn near my only friend, my lover, my partner, my business partner, my soundboard, my family. He was everything to me, and it was exactly how he wanted that to be. But at the same time, I'm realizing that I don't necessarily miss him as like a boyfriend or a partner or a lover. I think I just miss that best friend, business friend that I used to have. And that's what I'm like seeking out, is finding somebody that I can have that banter. But I don't think that's with a guy. I don't, because like the date that I went on, he talked business and work the whole time, and I was like, this is such a turnoff for me, because that's not something I care about anymore. Like it's not it. It's just it's just everything that I left, and it's not the only value in my life. And so yeah, I just really have learned so much with dating that I want you to know that going through a breakup, if you're going through a breakup, take it at your own pace. If you are someone who's like, the way that I feel and heal is by, the way to get over somebody is to get under somebody, is a true fact. I will say, go get laid, or like go do the thing that you need to do. Go get your mind off of your ex. However, if you're somebody more like me where I did that for a moment and every time I did it, I felt worse about myself. I felt it's not the way that I want to heal or go and work through this breakup. So then I'm trying to figure out how it is that I'm working through this breakup. And I'm realizing that going on these dates, I'm building up what it is that I will accept in a man and what it is I will not. What I learned from this date is that it's not that deep. He and I just did not align. We did not value the same things, want the same things, and that's totally chill. But what I realized was I need to not care to be too much. I did not say that my shoes are not walking shoes because I didn't want to be too much because I was a woman wearing heels. I just didn't want to be too much for him and be like, oh, I'm just like too girly, too frilly, like too I don't even know. Like, I just felt like if I said that my shoes weren't walking shoes, then he'd think less of me. I don't know why. It's something I talked about with my therapist a little bit, but we didn't get into the depths of that yet. And like, it's just something that I'm realizing is that like, I needed to just say, fuck you. Look at my outfit. This is not a walking outfit. We went to dinner. I expect dinner. So if you don't want dinner, there's the door. Or I could have just been like, politely, one of my best friends said, I would have responded like, yeah, we can go for a walk after dinner. But I froze and I was like, why can't I like say what I really want? And I was like, I really want to eat dinner, but I just was so afraid of being too much. So I'm like realizing that these relationship, like these dates that I go on, it's not necessarily like I'm searching for the one. I'm kind of just building more of my own character and building trust in myself. And that's the lesson that I learned through my ex and through all these dates is like, learning to trust myself. And I will say that I've been working on that for a while. I've been working on that with friends. I've been working on that with like how I want to live my life. I know I mentioned this before, but like going out doesn't necessarily serve me anymore. And I'm trusting myself on that. So the last few weeks, I have this friend who she keeps reaching out and bless her. I love her. She's going through she would even say, she's like, no, I'm going through a feral stage is what she's calling it. And I love that. And she respects that I'm just not. But she always invites me. She's like, if you feel like you want to come out, we're going here. And that's the thing. I'm like, I don't. It's not going to align with me the next day. I'm going to feel worse about myself. And it's going to take me about 2 or 3 days to pick back up again. And I just don't want that right now. There's a time and place for feral mads. And right now it's not it. And that's what I really wanted to talk about today for this podcast was like, dating is not linear. Life is not linear. Grief is not, nothing is linear. Nothing just goes in a straight line. It's like riding the waves, and it is truly riding the waves. Like I just sometimes wish the waves weren't so fucking tidal. Like I do. I sometimes like it feels like it's so much sometimes. And I'm like, golly. But for the first time in the past 6 months, these don't feel that big. And yeah, like, did the date not work out? Yeah. And I had somebody say like on TikTok, they were like, no, babe, like he just didn't want to grab the check. By all means, don't grab it. I'll grab my own. I'm not going to pay for yours. You asked me for dinner, but I'll pay for mine. Like, it's not about if you can afford it. It's all about the principle at this point. If you invited me to go to Taco Bell, I would go. Like, it's about quality time for me. It's not about what it is that we're going and doing. It doesn't have to be extravagant. I don't need to go to the Four Seasons. I don't need to do all these fancy things, because at the end of the day, I just listened to another man pretty much working away at his life, and now he's at a certain age where he doesn't have a girl and he doesn't have a family and he doesn't do anything except love himself, and it's pretty fucking lonely that way. I don't know, people say it's lonely at the top, and honestly, at this rate, I just haven't been seeing a lot of these men be super happy with that type of success yet. Now, I'm going to say yet, listen up, ladies. I'm still looking, but I'm not putting it away that a man cannot be successful and love a woman the way that a woman should be loved. But like, it does take two to play. And I think that this is my part of figuring out how to love myself wholly, so that when somebody comes in, I don't lean on them for that. So lots of learnings, but the biggest one that I want to take away today in this episode number 5, is trusting yourself. And with that, I hope that you understand that, like, when I talk about my previous relationship, I definitely don't want to talk about it as much, which is going to be great for having guests on the podcast. But I don't want it to sound like woe is me. This is all like understanding of the choices I've made and why I've made them and how to not repeat them. Because insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So I was going insane, and this is how I'm not going to go insane, is by sharing my learnings. Because if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, I keep going on dates and I end up sleeping with them on the first date, and then they end up not texting me the next day, and then there's this and there's that, and then like I end up sad and alone and like not happy. Look at your pattern, check yourself, look at the pattern, see what you're doing and see what needs to change. Because the first thing when I shared this to my therapist, the first thing that she asked was, what did we learn? Because it's not about what happened, it's what we learned from it. So that's like the reason I blossomed this podcast, was it's not that deep, because once we need to get to the depth to then understand what we learned from it so that we can then move forward. And with that, I want to end the podcast with an intention. So I do have these intention cards that one of my clients gave me, which I fucking love all my clients. And it's really funny because for the month, this is going to be like my monthly intention. And for these guests, I think I'm going to have them have intentions. And if not, we'll just roll with my monthly intention for this month of April. But I kind of at random, I don't know if you guys have done that, like TikTok, if you've scrolled for too long and the like tarot readings come up. But anyways, they like, slice the decks and stuff like that. So I kind of like shuffled the cards, and whichever one kind of fell out, I grabbed. And so this one is the one that fell out. And it's funny because today in yoga, I was thinking about the word change a lot, but I always feel like that's a common, and it is a common intention, but I just, for the first time in 6 months, have noticed change happening. So all of the small little changes that I've done, I actually have seen the changes happening, and it's coming this month. And it's April, May, and June. Watch the fuck out. So my intention to end on this podcast is, I focus on doing the things I can do and changing the things I am able to change. That is the intention for this month. And I'm going to read it one more time so that you can then read this to yourself. I focus on doing the things I can do and changing the things I'm able to change. And because at the end of the day, it's not that deep. And I do like ending it on that, but I really like ending my episodes with saying this phrase that my therapist said to me, because it really has helped me through like deep, dark moments in my life. And it's this: remember, everything is temporary. And next week, I will have my very first guest. Actually, it's not next week, but coming soon in April, I will have my first guest on, and I cannot wait. I will have video up, and I just will have everything. I hope to be a little bit more organized, but I will have video, audio, and then socials for everyone to follow. So if you don't know how to follow me, my personal page is mads.cook.hair. Oh, wait, that's not it. That's my hair page. mads.cook.hair is my hair page, and my personal page on IG is mads_cook. I will have that all in the bio or like the description, but this is how I'm gonna end it. So just remember that like I am human, and this is a hobby essentially for me. So if you're frustrated that I don't post consistently, it's not necessarily like I don't want to. It's just I want this to be fun. And if it's not fun, and if I'm not feeling it, if I'm honestly too deep in my head, I won't post it. But it's the whole reason that I have this podcast. It's not that deep. And remember that everything is temporary. Okay, see you next time.